Hello, this is someone guy in Hawaii with hopefully my final video before the hunt begins. Some good to know pieces of information. If you saw the subtitle, we have some ground to cover, so let's get started. Regarding the spreadsheet, I have been making small changes and corrections to the downloadable custom spreadsheet, mainly correcting the order of items when sorting on the weighted column. You can use any version you like for the practice, but I would download a fresh copy on Sunday the 6th for use during the actual hunt to get the most recent one. I don't plan on making any changes after that unless a really big mistake is discovered. On the topic of gauging our progress, I mentioned in the by the numbers video that the daily point total is a better indicator of progress than number of items. But this is not really true early in the hunt. This 135 points per day goal is skewed by the big 5 and 10 point items. There are only 60 of these out of 370, but points wise, they make up 36% of the total points. So even though the vast majority of items, 310 out of 370, are worth 1 or 2 points, the average point value of an item in the hunt is 2.54 points. If you take 135 and divide by 53, you get 254. The first 53 items we collect, and the next, will almost exclusively be 2-pointers, worth around 100 points total each day, not 135. Realistically, we need to collect around 70 of these per day the first few days to get 135 points per day. Okay, the only 5-point items we can farm before finishing the main story, something I suggest not prioritizing, are 8 items available from the Cistern and Circle Slaughters and Arms Race. Okay, so trying to average 135 points per day, at least early in the hunt when almost all we see are 1 and 2 point items, is difficult and misleading. Okay, the item count is probably more accurate later in the hunt after we get most of the 2-pointers and start farming 5 and even 10-point items, which take longer to farm. The actual point total will become a better indicator. Now, if you want a bit more consistency in judging progress, take the actual daily item total, whatever you've totaled up, and multiply that by 2.54. Look at both that result and the actual point total and go by whichever is higher. Okay, if either number is close to the desired point total, we're doing fine. If either number exceeds the desired point total, we're doing very well. Okay, I did a practice run recently, and after 18.1 hours of playtime on this character, I had 226 points from 116 items. I took that 18.1 hours and I added 10%. 10% for clipping drops, claiming drops, updating my own spreadsheet, talking to chat, taking breaks, all the things involved in streaming the hunt that don't involve directly playing the game. Okay. That results in 19.91 hours. Let's call it 20 hours, or what I would consider the bare minimum 10 hours a day over 2 days of streaming. Okay. The target point total after 2 days is 270 points, and we only had 226. However, 116 items times 2.54, the average item point value, equals 295, well above target 270, so doing really well. Okay. On the topic of flexibility and the whole not rushing to finish the story strategy, there is one factor which may alter our application of that strategy, namely artifacts. Okay, the artifact slot opens up after we defeat Graveward at the very end of the Eden 6 story mission. Okay, artifacts, however, can start dropping even before we reach Eden 6, especially if we start doing DLC content after reaching Sanctuary. Now, I don't consider most artifacts game changers in a regular playthrough or all that useful early in the hunt. I can see the electric banjo being very useful maybe, but not enough to prioritize getting the artificial slot. The one exception for me, however, is the snowdrift. Being able to slide around at increased speed not only gets us around maps faster, it allows us to avoid combat if we so desire. So whenever artifacts start to drop, I inspect them. If a snowdrift drops, I grab it, but keep doing what I was doing, farming hunt items and leveling up until I reach around level 36 plus, because Graveward tops out at level 36 in normal mode. As soon as I know I can dispatch Graveward without too much effort, I finish the story up to that point to get that artifact slot and start using the snowdrift. Okay, if you value the snowdrift or perhaps some other artifact that drops early on, you may want to modify your hunt like I do. Whatever our game experience, but especially if we play a lot of looter shooters, luck, as in the fickle RNG, random number generator, will eventually rear its head. If it favors us, we don't usually notice. When our luck runs bad, however, and the items we want fail to drop, then we notice. And when this happens in the hunt, and it will happen, the temptation is to go do something else and come back to that farm later. Okay, and that is an option. For the sake of our own attitude, go farm something else and come back later. A couple of things, though, to keep in mind. One, probability is what it is, and an item drop rate will not change by going away and doing something else and coming back later. I have 2 Borderlands 3 videos dealing specifically with probability and how most gamers don't understand how it works. Going away and coming back later may brighten our mood personally, which can be important, but it won't change our luck. Stick it out and keep farming or come back later doesn't matter. Okay. What may matter is that a lot of Borderlands 3 requires traveling a fair distance and fighting through a lot of enemies just to get into a position to farm something. Okay. Mouthpiece requires traveling halfway across Ascension Bluff. Katagawa Ball, all of Skywell. Agonizer 9000, all of Guts of Carnivora. Unless these and other sources, like them, Kilovolt, Captain Sean, etc., drop all of their hunt loot items on the first try, we are going to have to retrace our steps, because the game makes us go back and talk to Lilith or whomever before it starts respawning these enemies for farming purposes. So, if we run the gauntlet twice for any of these bosses, start farming them, and then stop and go do something else before we get everything, we're going to have to retrace our steps yet again at some point. Mind you, if we are overleveled and or have a snowdrift, retracing our steps may not be quite as time consuming or difficult. It's still extra time, so it's something to keep in mind. Okay. One other thing we can do, if we feel RNG is not being very nice, is completely shut down and restart the game. Random number generators are not completely random. They all start with a reference number called a seed. I'm not going to go into it. You can Google random number generator seed if you want more info. The point is, shutting down and restarting the game causes the game to grab a different seed. And changing that seed may, I repeat, may change our luck slightly, or it may appear to change our luck, or it may appear to do nothing. Okay. In my recent practice run, I farmed Mouthpiece over 40 times without him dropping the Echo 2 grenade, a common rarity item with a 15% drop rate. This included at least one complete game shutdown and restart, still nothing. Okay, I have moved on and will come back if or when I turn on Mayhem, because spending a lot of time trying to get one item worth 1 point is not smart. Okay. Complete game shutdown and restart is an option, but don't get into the habit of using it, and don't be surprised if it doesn't appear to work. We can't accurately judge if it has the effect, at least in the short run, and it is itself by definition time consuming, especially on console. Okay. Broodmother. Broodmother is a Hammerlock legendary hunt enemy that spawns in a cave near the end of the Pyre of Stars map. She is the only rare spawn that does not spawn every time we re-enter that cave. Okay, sometimes instead of Broodmother we get a generic Manticore creature. In my experience, she normally shows up maybe the first time we enter the cave, but anytime after that it's random. Okay, you may or may not want to instead farm Alacritus Vanda from the Cistern of Slaughter, which has the same drop pool, although Cistern runs take longer. We are allowed to claim a single item as a world drop from anywhere on the list, meaning anything that's not exclusive to a particular source. If it drops from someone other than the listed source, we can claim it. We can do that exactly once, okay? Have a list of possible candidates. I suggest anything that drops from a Circle of Slaughter or from Proving Grounds, especially if it's worth 5 points. Shred of Fire, Tina's Hippity Hopper, and pretty much any base game class mod worth 5 points. Have a list and claim the first one that drops. Save some time. Don't waste the pick by forgetting about it, which I did during the last time. Okay. Anointments tend to be important to a lot of endgame builds, but with the exception of Earl's vending machine Sanctuary, they don't really start showing up until after we complete the main story. Their frequency of appearance is also tied to Mayhem level. The higher the Mayhem level, the more often items drop anointed, and they aren't guaranteed to show up on everything unless we are on Mayhem 8 or above. This can create a dilemma as to when to switch on Mayhem, because the moment we do so, everything we fight scales to our level, and our advantage with respect to over-leveling content goes away. Okay. My advice, which adheres to the strategy I push, is pretty simple. Finish and farm all the content that doesn't scale with our level in normal mode first. That's all the main story. and DLCs 1 through 4 and 6. Okay, DLCs 1 through 4 have initial map areas that in normal mode are always at level 13, with subsequent areas mostly scaled to whatever level we are at when we first start the DLC. Okay, DLC 6, Ava's DLC, scales like that from the start, mostly. I say mostly because some of this content acts like rare spawns that always scale. Sumo at the end of the first Ava DLC mission and all the other enemies on that map always scale. Once we finish that mission, we can go back and farm an on-level Revolter anytime we want. Okay, Beef Pliskin and the enemies of Ava's third mission, by contrast, do not scale to our level, probably because he's part of the actual story. So his drop, the ridiculously powerful free radical pistol, is level locked until we turn on Mayhem. Okay. In any case, until we reach max level, I would do whatever content is relatively easy and efficient to farm, even though it scales. Once all the level locked content is done and we hit max level, however, there's no reason not to turn on Mayhem. Okay, this is all related to our final topic. With regard to Mayhem locked items, there are a number of sources with both Mayhem locked and non-Mayhem locked items in their drop pools. The Mayhem locked items are separated from the non-Mayhem items in the spreadsheet, with the Mayhem items listed at the very end when sorting by location code or by the weighted column. Okay, we can wait until turning on Mayhem to farm all these drops from each of these sources at one go. The logic being we only have to seek them out once, farm them until everything drops, then move on and never come back. However, with the exception of the Lead Sprinkler, dropped by Billy the Anointed, and the Occultist, dropped by Troy Calypso, all the normal mode farmable items from these sources have lower drop rates when farmed in Mayhem mode. Okay, so waiting till Mayhem mode to farm everything from these sources may actually increase the time it takes for some of these items to drop. Okay, the Dragon class mod has a 100% chance to drop from the Tink of Cunning in normal mode, but only a 50% chance on M4 and up, which is where their other item can drop. Okay, Kilovolt drops the 9-volt pistol on normal mode, but only drops the Monarch on Mayhem 6 and above. But if we farm the 9-volt on M6 or up, its drop rate is only 12.5%, versus 30% in normal mode. Okay, check out Loot Lemon for drop rates if you're at all interested in seeing the actual rates. Okay, and that's it. Be sure to check out and support all the streamers raising money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital during the hunt. Like, comment, subscribe, stay safe. Thanks for watching.